going to take a lot of the strength away from ATC right now as Sonics, are going to get Maru as well. This is falling apart for ATC really quickly.
Yeah, this is not looking great. In fact, they're also taking shots at Wildcard, and this is what I love from Sonics. They will fight everybody. They probably, I would assume maybe that's like the same team split up because they saw maybe 3 of ATC or 2 of them, the other 2 down below. But they are pushing this, and this is the aggression that is just wonderful to see as a nade comes in towards ATC.
There we go, and throwables coming out from Sonics right now, who've kind of started off a little bit slow in this series. They're currently in 6th place and taking out these 3 kills and ATC.
Oh, that's fire!
Oh no, what an unfortunate circumstance there for Profi. Accidentally walks in his own Molotov, but there we go, Mime. Is going to find a knock onto Marcel. It gets Melon down very low. And Maru with throwables out of his own, trying to stay alive into all of this, but this hard push and pressure coming from Sonics is going to make this very difficult for ATC to recover, as you see Profi has managed to pop out a first aid and stay up. So that's 4 players up for Sonics. And there comes another Molly there for Maru. He's just trapped in there.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. And I really got to say, man, Mime is such an impressive player. The way that he has grown, it's ridiculous.
Profi actually finds 2 with the nade. It's going to be Melon and Marcella who get knocked again. So ATC just barely recovered from the initial push, is back down once again to 1 player. And there we go, the hard push coming in now from Sonics as it runs right past him here into the smoke. Melon actually gets found out by Shrimsy, bit of spray and paint. We see all of Sonics just walking right past him. They don't realize they're right here. Oh no! Mime accidentally taking out his own player, but finding Maru and flushing him out as well.
You
Marcella
can't stop him.
But
you can't stop him. He'll knock teammates. He doesn't care. That was a super confusing smoke grenade, though. It was all covered up there, Clover, so I don't blame him at all.
Oh, man. A well-deserved win for there. We saw Wildcard kind of taking a look at that angle, but the bullets that we're hearing right now are actually coming from Liberate, who's much farther to the north. And so really, as we're now on the edge of the zone, we can see here on the minimap, and where the circle is actually taking a shift back up towards Monty, means that these 2 teams can't stay here for much longer. They need to start thinking about their next position.
The shift is actually quite fortunate. It's left most of the west side out, so it's a pretty fair assessment, I think, to believe that this girl probably won't go to the west anymore. So most teams are not going to have to make that decision I was talking about earlier. STK finds himself also in a very, very nice position at the center of the circle as we see Radiance now kind of coming in from the edge from the south.
Yeah, I mean, Radiance, they had a really good day on Miramar yesterday. They had also kind of a mediocre Miramar match as well. This is a team, though, that has managed to stay kind of in the center of the leaderboard through group stages. We've seen him in the center of the leaderboard so far through the finals. They're kind of my underdog team. I think they have the ability to come through and pop off if they can play like we saw them play a bit yesterday. But right now, staying on the edge, kind of hugging to the south, that seems to be their motto here on Miramar, especially as the circle continues yet again to hang towards Monty. And, speaking of the south as well, you've kind of got what's left of Fabled and Comets as they're rotating in from the southwest. Oh, Tanaka. It's not a pro game if you don't run over at least one of your teammates.
It's very true. We've seen it almost every game. I'm sure they'll get to knock up just fine. He's maybe a little miffed, but Comets, looking at them on the map here and what they've been able to do, we've pretty much always seen Comets operate in a 2-man show, doing some impressive things, whether it's Yaxley and Victor, or sometimes we'll see Sub-Zero and Yaxley, but they never seem to be able to be cohesive as a unit of 4. As we wait, what's this with Zenith?
Ooh. Throwables out, Roth coming in, looks like a hard push here onto Sonics. Zenith was actually in fight with Tactical 8 earlier. It's kept him on the east side, but it's given him a prime opportunity to come in through for Sonics. We've seen a lot of strength coming from Zenith as a pre-fire out from Roth is going to be enough to take down Profi. He's going to lose a bit of his helmet in the process and having to take a quick break for the heals, but Kickstart and Mystery trying to hold the pressure, not allowing Sonics to overextend, but from distance, 303 is actually going to steal that kill. Landoon taking credit for Zenith right there, so they're not going to get the kill.
Nope, they are not indeed, and
I guess we're not going to Monty, but you're right. STK is really in a good position yet again, just to the center. It's shared there with 303.
So is Hardships, though. Hardships is also in a very strong position in the circle, and they've really been killing it, man. Hypok was bringing out some really good points about Maluk. I remember subbing for that team a long time ago. He is really intelligent with the way he looks at this game, and Sharpshot is going to go down as they make that point to Sonic. Strimzy going to find it as Wildcard still up top, but Zenith as well. This is a smorgasbord of teams right now at the east side of the circle.
I mean, Wildcard, I think, was hanging around a little too long without a plan, trying to keep an eye on those fights that were happening to the south of them, but Sonic's got a little bit tired of waiting on Zenith, rotated back into that compound, and have found Wildcard in the process, as we see Keenan take just quite a bit of damage from H1 there, but is going to keep on running. His weapons are out right now. He's just focusing on putting as much distance between him and the rest of the squads and trying to find a healthy and safe angle right now, as Zenith, yet again, is going to put the pressure here onto Sonics, but Zenith's still with the high ground.
Yeah, and Zenith really has a good position to kind of dictate this. Sonics still technically could wrap a little bit to the north if they wanted to, but that's just not, it's not really a Sonics play. They generally just go straight into the fight. But, you know, Zenith is starting to take shots from other teams as well, as we see Balefrost destroying Comets, or at least two members of Comets.
Meta, there you go, continues. I think Oath and Liberate are still fighting off to the north outside of Monty, but it is this fight right now with Zenith and Sonics is continuing to pop off as Kickstart goes down, but Roth, again, with that pre-fire, waiting for that peak, is going to find some damage onto Mine, but can't quite secure the knock just yet, as you see Roth and Mystery push down. They can't focus on Shrimzy and H1 until they can take out the Thorn behind their back, immediately turning their attention as we're going to see them pick that up. Roth actually finds Shrimzy. Mime is out as well, but Kickstart falls as well, so it's just one player still up for Sonics, and Roth has found them.
There
it's H1. They go down.
Yep.
Oh.
And look at this, 5 kills on Zenith, even though they've lost 2, still 5 kills. I mean, they are going to run through. They're going to fight yet. Pat is coming up. I like this as long as his team can cover him. Wait, is Pat getting shot in the back? He is.
Oh,
by Los. Oh, by Los. He's not in cover, and this is going to put a little bit of... Oh, goodness. Is he going to get knocked?
Oh, no. Pat Cap's just barely finding some survivability behind this rock, down to 5 HP. We'll pop off that first aid kit, but as we can see, he's got 4 smokes. Might be a time to use one, but... You talked a bit earlier about the kind of lack of leadership that Exodus has had and some of the precarious situations that it puts them in. Pat Cap's going out and investigating, trying to third-party this Zenith Sonics fight feels a little bit like that. I mean, he's extended himself way beyond reach from his squad. He's completely open from all these teams. And now as we see the circle shift, he's on the wrong direction. So he needs to head all the way back down to Drassel and Taylor J, but there's not really any safety in his current position.
Yeah, and it's going to be rougher now with the circle shift towards where he wants to go, because the other teams are going to be looking that way, whereas earlier he could have gone back down, and it's just unlucky that, you know, Radiance was really paying attention to what he was doing. Liberate also caught in kind of a precarious situation with Oath kind of sandwiched between. This is odd.
Ooh, and yeah, I mean, Balefrost has a really nice angle, and as we saw him get that double nade kill on Comets out of Monte Nuevo, but should have a good angle on this, as we can actually see multiple teams taking shots this direction. 303 and Wildcard also taking shots at Liberate right now. It's actually going to be Mystery that gets a knock there onto Lush. Guab and Ice Tech struggling just a bit to stay alive, and that might be a little bit of relief for Balefrost, who's going to be able to continue on. It's Phase 5, the blue is moving, and you don't want to be along the edge, which is where he is right now, but multiple teams still looking in that direction doesn't necessarily mean it's going to help him out here. But Honey Badger finding Ice Tech gets that knock. There will be no recovery for that, and Guab's got no choice but to send it as he gets in the Murado and heads straight for 303's compound. But look at that, Rello gets a knock onto Land Dunes, so you've got so much third partying going on right now.
Yeah, I mean... This is a kind of crazy circle, because this is, you know, there's a lot of really playable terrain, so we're seeing a lot of teams trying to get angles. They're getting brave with their peaks because they can. They have a lot of cover just naturally. Oath, meanwhile, Balefrost has been doing a lot of work picking up not only 3 kills, but doing a lot of damage, and I believe he got 1 knock that wasn't actually cleaned up, so this is huge. And Zenith's still trucking. They're still on the east side of this, trying to find a way in, but Keenan...
Good opportunity here for Keenan. He does find and flush Roth. All that's left is Mystery right above him, but can he find the angle onto this? As it looks like a flashbang is out, hoping that that's enough, but 303 had enough of an angle onto this. Mystery takes out Keenan, but not before Honey Badger takes him back out as well, and that is 2 teams eliminated for the price of 1 as 303 continuing to dominate from this angle.
Yeah, mutually assured destruction there as 303 just we're picking them off one by one. And this position from 303 is also very strong. I mean, we've seen Hardshifts as well do a lot of work from this position. When the circle does favor that hilltop, it is definitely where you want to be.
And 10 teams, 33 players left alive. As we can see now, Radiance continuing to hold the south here, looking for an angle on Shoot to Kill, who's been lying in the center, really kind of Rhodes position. But again, I mean, as more and more teams also get eliminated, it's going to make things a little bit easier. And we watch that circle shift rotation. STK yet again in the center, and now all the teams that have been playing a bit patiently in the south are going to have to start rotating into one another. We've got Fabled, Hardshifts, Elusive, and Radiance all down here.
Yeah, Radiance is in a little bit of a pickle as they're currently being held out, and it's not that great of a run coming up. Meanwhile, look at Illusion really working with what they've got around this junkyard area. They could potentially spoil this for Oath if they decide to push up, but they actually have Fabled coming on the other side to the west, so I don't know if I like them playing this defensive in there. They're trying to be active, but this is also a difficult position to play.
And it looks like Fabled is just going to start to try and send it to this compound. Is actually from a distance. It looks like Shoot to Kill might have angles on this. And immediately we're seeing utility come out from Fabled as they're looking for those knocks. Icy Flex is actually very low. We've got Smokes out as well. So Fabled looking for that position and that push into this compound, hoping to have enough cover onto this. And that's also going to split up Illusion, as you said. And we've got Oath coming in from a different angle. Wolf, Snakers, Rello, Balefrost kind of on the other half of this compound. And, you know, still 303 has sight. They've got the high ground. So it's going to be a little bit tricky for Illusion on this.
It is going to be very tricky as well, especially with a retooled Fabled coming after them. I mean, the way that they've been engaging these fights and getting knocks and, you know, playing for trades is super impressive, man. It's ridiculous.
It looks like Illusion is actually going to knock down both Tanaka and Greg. Shot trades indeed as 2 players go down for Illusion, but Ranger has been flushed out as well, and that's another one. Supernova has been found as well. All that's left still standing is Hella. She was working on that res for Tanaka, but pulling back away as Top Dog came in for a hard push, trying to find that next knock, and from afar, Purdy Curdy is actually going to get a knock onto Icy Flex, and that might land the hand to Hella, except that she is completely open to the rest of these teams, and it's actually going to be Snakers there that cleans that up. But look, we see as well in the kill feed, Hardshifts are getting some knocks on this as well and stealing some kills. So Illusion down to 1 player. Oath still up for 4. This whole western side is just falling apart.
Yeah, it's really, like I said, this position is not easy to hold, and I think Illusion did the best that they could with multiple teams also coming down and pouring over that hill. It's just going to be Top Dog. They did manage to take out Illusion and get 2 kills at the very least, but I mean, Oath is around this corner. We also have, you know, potentially Hardshifts that could wrap if they really wanted to. They have a strong position, and it's not going to be great for Top Dog here, especially with that shift.
No, especially not indeed. We've got Hardshifts that are just kind of hanging back on the edge of zone as STK is wrapping around to the south. Exodus and Radiance are making a lot of noise, and they're looking for any opportunity to pick up kills and gatekeep as we kind of take a better look here. Drassel is going to be able to pop off that first aid kit, but right now Taylor J, very low on health, is going to have to focus on that as well. As it's actually Honey Badger coming down for 303, so multiple teams looking for a better angle on this, but McCoy immediately getting that knock and flush onto Drassel. As we see now STK look for that opportunity here.
Oh, and STK, nice use of utility there, but even still, Radiance can really mess up STK's game here if they decide to push up. Battlelaw's going to go up. He's going to get uncivil.
Ooh. Here comes Hardshifts. Hardshifts are actually walking right onto STK here. They're going to get that knock there onto Purdy. That's 2 players down for STK's. Maluk gets Curdy, right now as well. And Alo, who was trying to lend a hand, pulling back, trying to get a better angle. As we can see now, Lobes and Chuba coming up from the high ground here as Uncivil goes down as well. That's 3 players out right now for Shoot to Kill. Only Alo still standing. And Hardshifts now sitting at 6 kills, trying to take the center point away, but right now have the high ground. So I wouldn't extend beyond this just yet, as there you go, Illusion found out by Chuba. That's 7 kills now for Hardships.
That was a really dangerous position and risky one, to be honest, that STK found themselves in, because they were in between that compound in the middle of that road. There's not a lot of cover. They went to play aggressive, and I don't know if they lost track of where the other teams were, but they have to have heard Hardships and Oath fighting at some point there. So, I mean, they got split, and because of that, they lost 3.
And now, of course, with STK out of the way, we see Lobes and Chuba take, their focus back down to the south again. Their original push for this was that Radiance was making a lot of noise in that fight to Exodus. But Batty, Lull, and McCoy, Waldo, Los, they're trying to hold on to the southern corner as best as they can. They know that Hardships are here, but Maluk and Lobes are very close to this now as well. Your biggest threat, I think, though, comes from 303, as we can see bullets from afar. They've continuously had the high ground from this, have been trying to steal kills, doing a decent amount of damage, but haven't fully gotten the knocks out of this. And as this phase 7 circle comes to a close, I think that last 8 shift is going to give us an idea, and that's finally going to pull 303 out from that spot.
Yeah, STK also, I mean, they're not done. Alo does have, a center shack. It will be fairly obvious when teams start to push there. They'll probably try to clear it out, but I mean, he also could get lucky and survive very well into the top 3.
We've seen it before from him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not only the fact that he can just frag, I would put him against anyone and trust him to win that 1v1, but I mean, his position is not bad, especially when these other teams have to rotate around each other and fight.
Now we have 6 teams alive, 13 players alive, but of those 6 teams, 3 of which are solo players. You've got Taylor J from Exodus, STK from Alo, and Rello here for Oath versus 3 players of 303, 3 players of Hardships, 4 for Radiance, and maybe I spoke too soon. Los is actually going to get knocked by Taylor J. Is good help there, as he's going to actually knock Waldo as well, but it didn't matter. McCoy gets that here, and meanwhile, this hard push coming in from 303. Oath waiting for it. Voxic actually gets knocked, but it's from Chuba. It is Hardships that get this here, and immediately Rela goes down. D-Rich picks that up. They're not going to have the opportunity to get that res here. 303 down to just 2 players.
Chuba hit a disgusting shot. That opening knock that was onto 303, I mean, damn. Chuba's really coming into his own. It's really great to see.
Here come utility out from both teams as a nade blowing up right in Honey Badger's face, going down to 45 HP, but not before returning a nade of himself. It will be enough to knock Chuba, as Lobes immediately working for that res, trying to keep them up 2 players strong. You still got Maluk out to the south, who's trying to hold on to the high ground and get as much information, but these throwables are going to really hurt. There we go. We see a couple shots from Maluk on a Honey Badger at 303, maintaining this pressure as Chuba will get res and now working on healing, but phase 8 is closing. We've got 10 seconds until phase 9 moves, and that means that all these players on the edge of zone cannot get comfortable.
Lowe's is actually so close to peeking that over that little ridge and finding Honey Badger, and that was a good use. The one thing I've noticed, though, is with flashbangs, a lot of these players are throwing flashbangs, but they're not actually following up on them. Sometimes they're being used defensively, but I feel like with the offensive flashbangs, there's a lot of hesitation on whether or not some of these players want to peek with those.
Now, another thing as well, I want to talk about Radiance positioning here. We've talked about their need to make it to these final circles. Waldo's actually going to knock and flush out D-Rich. That leaves 303 just down to Honey Badger. It's now 8 kills here for Radiance, who continue to hold the center of the zone and the high ground. We've got Hardships and Alo just beyond the ridge here, and this is not going to look good for, Halo, but look at this. Here we go. Maluk actually gets down McCoy, but Waldo gets down Maluk as well. There's a trade of knocks.
Nice prone.
Ooh, and
that was almost perfect.
3 teams. So it looks like Alo had actually been found onto this. 2 players knock right now for Radiance. Waldo and Batty are the only 2 still up, but it is down to just Chuba. So we've got a solo versus 3 players now for Radiance. I mean, this is wild. Radiance, you just can't mess this up. This is the last phase, and right now, Chuba's got a good opportunity to, I think, as well, to take out Honey Badger.
Yeah, he hears it, he sees him.
Oh,
Chuba with the hero plays! Jeez, this is the second time he's clutched second place for his team.
So there we go.
Lovely from
Radiance
Chuba.
now knows exactly where Chuba is. They've got 3 players still up, and we've got the hard push now. Chuba very low on HP. Radiance and Waldo are going to go wide, trying to find the angles. McCoy holding down the center, watching that window. Waldo taking a couple shots, is going to land it there, and it is actually going to be McCoy that gets the final kill, as Radiance getting a chicken dinner with 10 kills. This is what we've been talking about, wanting to see from these guys, especially yesterday when they made it so far there in match number 4. So this is great. This is looking really healthy for them.
Yeah, I mean, they were my X Factor pick because I know what that team is capable of, but they haven't really, shown the consistency that they should. At the same time, what we just witnessed from them is exactly what we expect. Also, Chuba is just starting to become the clutch master for hard shifts. That's the second time he's done a beautiful job of using the smokes, taking his time, and clutching it out, getting a second place. And I will say that, from someone who has played with Chuba at least a long time ago, he's grown so much as a player. The patience thing that I'm seeing from him, the patience game, is actually what I feel like is starting to become one of his biggest strengths, when he never seemed to be a patient player, at least when he first started out. So he really has come full circle, and he is growing so much as a player, and I just love to see him, in this position finding success.
Yeah, I mean, Chuba with 4 kills that match. I also want to give a shout out to Honey Badger, who managed to stay up for quite a long time, doing a lot of damage for 303, picking up 4 kills himself. But I mean, McCoy, 5 kills, Waldo, 4 kills, even Battylol with a kill there for Radiance. It's really been a great pleasure to see some of those teams that we were kind of not expecting into the top 5 now really taking their own. I mean, we're almost halfway through this series. I think to sit there and look at the group, the teams that did amazing on group stage, that's not the story that we can do much longer. We really need to start focusing on the teams that are showing it now. And with that, we're going to toss this over to the host desk and see what they have to say about this match and what they think about these teams. So, guys, take it away.
We'll talk about the match in a second because I know what y'all want. Let's just do this thing. Get out the pen, get out the paper, get the client up. It's time for a free PCS Pick'em Challenge voting coupon redemption code. Go to the esports tab in-game. Codes are limited, so act fast. You can only redeem 1 free voting coupon per PUBG account. I'm going to read it out loud for those of you who are in the client currently and only have 1 monitor. 48, that is 48XSBNHVYT5A. Enter. I believe in you. I think you got it. All right, let's talk about that match. Hypoc Matchroom, welcome back. I want to jump right into something that I heard Godspeed say a second ago about he's really proud of Chuba. He's sort of grown into this patient player. I also want to point out, we talked a little while earlier about Maluk's power when he's dead and is an IGL. And I have to believe, to a certain extent, Maluk's ability to micromanage may have been able to rub off on Chuba and taught him some things like patience, Matchroom, and judgment in these late-game positions.
Well, if there's one thing that we know about Maluk and his shot-calling strategies is the fact that patience was always a big part of it. There was a team, whenever he was on Tempo Storm, they would always play out in the blue, then maneuver whenever they felt that they had an advantaged position. If you make that your disciplined goal in life, don't take a fight until you know you can win, and don't put yourself in a disadvantaged position until you just have to, you're going to have the keys for success. And it looks like everybody is just starting to follow in and go, okay, even players that we used to know. I mean, I remember back one time I was casting Chuba. He had to go to work one time, so he just jumped in a vehicle and just sent it towards the center of the circle, just trying to kill whoever he could along the way. So seeing him go from that into something like, all right, let's see, I need to make sure that I make the play here and come in a little bit more technical.
It's interesting, Hypoc, because I think that when I was a young sportsman in the day, and I was working my way through the club system, you'd always might try to find a coach or a leader who had a different style of play than you so that you could learn from them and sort of get those skills. And while we look at the highlights, I'm going to keep talking about this. No matter what happens, this is a big pickup for someone like Hubba to find a chance to work under someone who may teach him a new way to play the game.
Yeah, absolutely is. And even just the small detail there of obviously the fight getting opened up onto Radiance and actually almost having the upper hand there. And then Chuba making the decision to pull back, deal with the solo, get the extra placement point and the kill point. Even something small like that is something that, maybe isn't totally apparent to new players or players with not long. This nade was insane, by the way, for Honey Badger. It literally cooked to perfection. But just coming back to that quickly, just the decision there to break off the fight from Radiance and prioritize that extra placement point to get a second place. Small things like that are something that, new players, it's difficult to kind of reset mid-game and actually think about things logically. So that, again, there is a really good indicator, I think.
Well, while we're talking about Chuba, and I know it's great to talk about Maluk and everything else coming in, Chuba is very quickly becoming a clutch player. Like, whenever you're in a situation, you know it's bad. somehow he's managing to find these different angles, these different approaches. He has an idea on where the enemies are and are acting off of almost like his gut feeling on what's going to happen. We just saw him make a smoke play a second ago. He made a push into a shack, managed to get into a fight with that. And I think it's just, that's just an innate game knowledge skill that you just develop over time. And I think that we're starting to see that just mature and mature.
Well, I think it's great as well because he's always been very mechanically talented. I remember back in 2017, he used to literally spam me and Baja with his montages back in literally before, but back when I was in original White M Fate. So it's great to see him kind of adapt that talent into now having some really credible competitive experience and prowess.
Well, and we're going to take a look at the match leaderboard, and I'm going to pivot us away from Hardships because they didn't even win. Let's talk about a team that shined in that match. Radiance. They came out in the top position. We're going to see it right here. And this is a team, and I'll start with you, Hypoc. I've been giving them a hard time about underperforming, and then they come out with a 20-point win.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the biggest critic of this team, to be honest with you. But that's purely because, again, I know what Lost is capable of. There was a few questions around the move with, Lost going together with McCoy in terms of personality clashes. I've spoken to him at great length about it, and actually even he was surprised himself. He said in his own words, actually, you know what, I was pleasantly surprised by my experience the first few weeks. So that coupled with, Waldo coming in, I mean, for me, this should be a team that excels and consistently excels. And unfortunately, we haven't, I guess, seen them hit form yet. There's obviously the kills from the previous match. You can see there's actually pretty even 5 different teams represented in the top 5. But yeah, Radiance is one for me that I think once they, I hate using the cliche, but iron out the kinks or get through the teething problems or whatever it is, I think actually are going to be a really, really solid team.
So, Matcher, before I have you give me some thoughts on sort of Radiance and the overall performance, a great job to Honey Badger and the top damage there. I want to give you something that McCoy said to me today. I messaged him and said, what the heck happened yesterday? Because it was a bad day. And he goes, oh, we just trolled on like every team fight. Hopefully today goes better. Do you think that cavalier attitude is carrying over to their actual game, or is that just McCoy being McCoy?
That's probably a pretty decent amount of McCoy being McCoy, let's be real. I mean, he's known for being a little bit of a troll every once in a while, but whenever you walk away with 5 kills inside of a game, you get the round win. Waldo walking away with 4. That's a big performance coming out from the team. You can see it's helping them out so much. Whatever was going on yesterday seems to have changed, as now Radiance is in that 8th place position. We still got Shoot to Kill at the top. We still got Hardships back behind that. Fabled slowly creeping back down to 3rd. But really, I'm starting to keep an eye on 303 and Radiance because it's starting to feel like these guys are starting to pick up their kills and getting late game more and more today.
They definitely are. And so as we look at the top 5 overall kills, Hypoc, I think this reflects a little bit what we saw on the leaderboard. Yes, Purdy's in 15, but Lobes and Chubba with 13 and 12 kills respectively, they're also the only team in the top 3 without a chicken dinner.
Yeah, and again, that's surprising. They're kind of due a win. I hate to say it, but due a win, so to say. And one for me as well, Lobes kind of getting back to some form as well. He had a very underwhelming stint on Cloud9, shall we say. And I guess that's, in my mind at least, kind of plagued him as a player, to be honest, every time we've seen him. But he's looking much slicker, and it's great to see that represented now on the top kills. Obviously here with the damage, Chubba again, just... I mean, he's just farming ADR now. He just wants to hold the number 1 at this point.
Okay, I've got to jump in for a second because, man, we've given this guy a little bit of a hard time, and we haven't addressed it yet. But there is a Landoon in our top 5 killers of this event.
There is.
And it would be, we would be at fault if we didn't point that out, okay? I mean, for as much trash as we've given him on cast before, I got to say, great job to you, Landoon. Great to see it.
It's great to see.
Go ahead, Hypoc. I see it.
I was going to say it's great to see after quitting PUBG 4 times he can come back and put up a performance. That's fantastic to see. But actually, yesterday we saw him actually pulling off some pretty filthy plays. There was a 1v3 wipe coming out of the ceiling of the Ladriera circle yesterday. And again, I think he's one of those players that's just quietly putting in work, and maybe we're not seeing too much camera time or being able to see him put that out, but it's fantastic to see nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, his damage output has been definitely more effective than his retirement posts. That said, though, I do like, and I think that's the key to some of these stats that we see, is players like Landoon, and maybe even brought a hub up in the past, are in there putting up work, but they're not the big flagrant players. They're not Luke 12, right? They're not getting 35 kills, but they're still just below those numbers being big team contributors. And it's nice to occasionally see them sort of pop up into that top 5 to remind everyone, hey, I'm here and I'm putting in work.
Well, there's also a secondary thing for being, like, for retiring and then coming back. I know it's a weird thing to say, but Hypoc, you can probably speak a little bit more on this, but as you move into trying to be a pro player, you just have so many stresses you start putting on yourself, and every bad performance just starts becoming a cascade. So whenever you step away for a little while and come in and be like, hey, I'm just going to give this another try, maybe you come in with a different mindset. Now, maybe all that pressure's gone, and you're just coming in to play for fun again, or playing to show off your skill again, instead of being like, I have to be the best, otherwise I'm a failure. And I don't know if that's what's going on with Landoon, but I can't help but wonder if it might be a factor.
I think there's also... Go ahead, sorry, Hypoc.
No, I was going to say, for me, when we think back to that, and this is going to be a throwback a lot, but Nova, GLL, Season 1, Landoon was like the star player for Nova back then. And again, we kind of came away from GLL Season 1, and he kind of just dropped off the face of the earth, and that was surprising for me at the time. And I think at the time, what was that? Richie, Landoon, Nerf, and I'm struggling for the last one. I can't remember.
Man,
Anyway, for me, Landoon was like the star player for Nova there, and he had a couple of really, really good plays on LAN. And that there is kind of an accolade not a lot of NA players nowadays have.
We'll see. I mean, I also think it's probably helpful some of these players able to play from home where you feel a little more comfortable.
Yep.
And we're going to go now to the game where 2 of our casters feel the most comfortable and at home in the desert. It is none other than Clover and Godspeed with the call on our last desert game.
I'm pretty comfortable with the desert. I don't know about you, Clover, but
you know what? I do agree. I've always joked that, I think some people, if you play a video game a whole lot, sometimes you inevitably dream about it. And I think that anytime I've ever dreamt about PUBG, I'm just chilling on my porch in Monte Nuevo with a margarita in hand, and that is, what I think about as home. I've been playing PUBG for so long. Miramar is my favorite map. I think even you've said it's one of your favorites as well, if not your favorite.
It is.
So it's always exciting that we get to cast these Miramar matches, and exciting as well because we're just seeing so much good PUBG coming from these teams. And with that said, guys, we're just about to go into game, and we're going to see where these teams drop, as this is our last Miramar match for today before we head into Erangel. So let's see where they're going to land and check out the flight path here.
So you're a Monty girl, okay?
I think so. I used to.
I mean, that's like I would say that's like the nice like plush part of Miramar to live in. More of a Chuma industrial plant type of man myself, but another really boring plane, man. What is? It's disappointing. It's super disappointing.
I don't know. I believe that maybe if we're lucky, we'll see a northeast circle, something that's not super common here. We don't usually see those circles go north of Al-Zahar, but as everybody starts to take a little bit of time to get their looting, landing, boots on the grounds, we're going to see where this first circle takes us, and all right.
Is that north?
Okay.
Is that north
very
enough for
different.
you?
No, this is a very fun circle. We've actually seen this quite a few times. Los Leones right there in the center, but immediately already, I mean, Tactical 8's in a nice position for this. They've actually still have players still in the air. I think Steezy's still, as you can see, in parachute, not yet on the ground. And Exodus and Comets. These are two teams that always land in Leonis. We see Exodus in their normal spot to the south, and that's going to put them in a really good position as well. This is a team that I think has really suffered on Miramar, in part because of how the circle keeps hanging out to the west, which has really been affecting their rotations in.
Yes, but at the same time, I still expect them to, after playing so many of those circles, especially in this setting, which is the grand finals, also in group stages, that they'd kind of figure it out by now. Another thing that I've just realized when talking about North Circles, South Circles, and what we've seen, I don't think I've ever seen a circle end in Campo Militar, which is really sad because I feel like that area has some really interesting... it's a really interesting area to play, and there's a lot of really cool plays I think that can be made up there, but I've just never seen it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you as well. I think that there's a lot of really nice areas to play. We don't even really see them often in hand, which is, I think, as well why we see teams usually avoid that area. Right now, We've actually got Illusion and 303 kind of looting out in that direction, the flight path. really tilted in that way and opened up a good opportunity for them to have some extra time and good loot before working their way into the zone. These are teams that we always see to the north, but it's Elusive that's been playing the south. We haven't really seen a whole lot from either today. They've kind of been caught on all of their rotations. Innate, both times on his scouting missions for the first 2 maps today, have been caught out by Sonics for one of them, and I can't remember who it was that caught him the second time, but it's really been unfortunate for them as, now we kind of follow suit with the rest of the teams that are rotating and looking for their position here in the center of the circle. Liberate is actually, I think, might be trying to contest one of these mini compounds that Tactical 8 has right now.
Liberate is such an enigma for me. I feel like I don't really know what their play style is. You know what I mean? I don't know if sometimes we've seen them play fairly impressive in team fights, and then others I feel like we just never see them as 4 up. I feel like 1 or 2 members is just always dead from this team, and I don't know where exactly along the way they're losing their members.
Ooh, and, like you said, I mean, it is a bit off for them. Do you think they are a team that maybe suffers from a lack of strong leadership, or even a strong, really, decision-making from any of them?
I'm not sure, because I know they do have Lush on their team, who has been IGLing in North American PUBG for a very long time. I know he was looking for opportunities to play for teams more recently, preferring not to IGL. He obviously has that experience, so I don't really know I just don't really know what's going on with that team. I can't put my finger on it. Fizzle is going to go down to Victor, Victor's been popping off, actually been playing very well as of late, but Elusive is another team that I don't really know what they're doing to be put in these situations where they're just, they only have 13 points.
Yeah. And, as well, I mean, there's always going to be teams that are at the bottom of the lobbies. Not everybody can be at the top place all the time. And I think as well, when you kind of get to this degree of level and you think, all right, well, what we're doing isn't working, we're going to change it up and try and come out on top, climb a little bit higher in the leaderboard. And for some teams, that's worked really well. We've seen that look amazing right now for Fabled, who's sitting in the top 3, Heartshifts, who's in 2nd place currently. But again, I mean, you've got any trolls in chat who did really good during the group stages, and they're sitting in 15th place right now.
Oh, look at this, Clover.
Oh, Radiance. That was such a good place to take a couple shots here. Waldo,
a few
shots. Sonics, just kind of letting them know, hey, that we're here. And as Radiance repositioning to take a couple more shots onto this, it looks like Profi is actually going to get caught out. Batty Lowell getting the knock, and McCoy finding the flush. So maybe Sonic's getting a little too confident in that, as Radiance is still going to pick one up there.
I'm curious to know if Profi, did he spin out? Was one of his tires taken out? Because he was out in the open with just no cover at all. He wasn't even close to his vehicle. That was crazy.
Once again, TAC 8, now their landing position, their drop point on the map was almost center to the zone, and right away started to get contested by teams that were looking to push in for that central position. TAC 8 did have a big split here, and now have kind of recongested back into one area. As we follow along now, Leonis, Exodus is finally going to exit the city, and that's going to put nobody else inside right now. Comets have already moved on as well, and looks like Drassel's actually spotted somebody from Elusive, taking a couple of shots, hasn't found that knock just yet, but we're seeing a lot of teams congesting themselves along the coast right now as we wait for phase 1 to close and see where that phase 2 circle is going to take us.
Shoot to Kill has not had the best games, by the way. I'm just going to point that out. They have slipped a little bit. I believe they started out with 65 points overall for the day, and they only have 70 going into this game.
And, Illusion, though, right now is taking a couple shots there onto ATC. Free Me Please will get the knock here onto Melon. There is just a bit of a shuffling of the cards here. Free Me Please.
Oh, goodness.
Ooh, good opportunity there to get that knock. He's going to pick it, not wasted at all. Maru lost control of the Murado, and that is 2 for 1 here for Illusion. But unfortunately, is going to get traded there as Marcelic picks that up, immediately gets the flush. And we've got Icy Flex and Top Dog, who are further up to the north, trying to lend a hand here to help, as Ranger's going to get Marcelic down to just a little bit of HP, trying to keep this on. And, as we kind of see this start to fall apart, we've got 303 up here to the north as well, needing to come in. Top Dog lending a hand back to this ATC fight, and Rangers now got the high ground, but is playing a little bit cautious on this, and that might give Marcelic an opportunity here to get the res as he's waiting for the rest of the team. So is this caution a good idea here, do you think?
I mean, this is a really Ranger has such a good angle on this if he decides to peek, but I think he's
all three.
Yeah, that's a little tragic. I'm not saying he should have played more aggressive, especially as a solo. I mean, if he goes down, he's pretty much dead, but he did have a really big opportunity, and it's hard to gauge that. Again, I don't fault him for it, but unfortunately, ATC is going to recover 3.
And as ATC recovers 3, Illusion setting up the angles all around them here as Icy Flex just trying to find that angle on here. Maro's actually going to go down to Top Dog. He will get that headshot, so it's 1 player down for ATC, and it's starting to fall apart again. They're taking some blue damage, but it's only phase 1, so they've got a little bit of time to fight this out right now as Marcelic trying to find a knock here onto Illusion. Will get it. Man. It's Icy Flex that goes down, but you still got Top Dog and Ranger in this area, and immediately working once more on that res. This is just such a risky play. You've got so many enemies in the area, and the circle, meanwhile, is going to shift, and it's going to stay moderately on all of these teams. Melon will knock and flush Top Dog as he goes down himself. This is a back-and-forth trades here for both Illusion and ATC, who have been really struggling on this location. Now, Ranger, the last player still alive, trying to get that flush onto Melon, but Marcelic and Maro are not going to have any of that if they're going to try to stay alive through this.
The time for this play is long gone. I mean, Ranger potentially would have had the opportunity. Now, this is a bad fight for both teams, essentially. I mean, I think ATC got the better of it, obviously, but there was so much wasted time there, and because of that, both teams were inevitably going to be out of position. Obviously, Illusion is the team that fell, but now Any Trolls in chat also 4 kills to their name, but only 2 alive and having a long way to go. I think this was, I don't want to say a waste of time, but this was definitely a waste of resources, and I think both teams would have been better off just either finishing that engagement faster or just breaking off.
Yeah. And, I mean, before that engagement as well, the conversation we were having at hand was STK and the fact that they really haven't done much today. They're sitting at the top of the leaderboard, but almost all of those points were from yesterday. And, I think a thing as well that's kind of helped, we see Hardshift's climbing up as well, but most of the teams today that have been doing well, it's Hardshift with 2 second-place finishes, Radiance and Wildcard with chicken dinners, and so the leaderboards, team leaderboards yesterday are not necessarily performing for these first few matches, and that's kind of allowing these points to balance themselves out. We've got 70, 67, 62, 59, 56, 53. I mean, all of these teams are 1 good game out of first place right now, all the way down to, I'd say, 9th place.
Yeah, and I know exactly why STK actually hasn't been doing well, and that's simply because Matchroom is casting, and he chose them, and that is 100%. It is. Well, it's not it's Matt's curse, specifically, especially with whatever team he chooses. And it's unfortunate that STK is a team he likes, because every time he's on the cast, they seem to have issues.
And I do want to point another thing out. We did just see ATC fall there into the kill feed. 303 was another team that was late on the rotation coming in from that same angle, and they were able to hang behind in the blue just long enough to clear out what was left of ATC. So now we're at 14 teams, 50 players left alive, and we can see here that Shoot to Kill kind of walking up onto Xena's compound. Got a lot of information, but choosing, no, this is not quite the angle that we want to take on this. We want to approach this from another positioning, or at the very least wait for the circle to close and see if it's even worth this engagement just yet. As now we're following along 303. Landoon, another player that's had a really good, not even day, but weekend so far.
Yeah, he has. Hardshift's gonna fight Liberate. Maluk!
No! Unfortunate. Maluk somehow surviving that fall, but it's gonna be hard pressed to find a res in this way as Liberate doing a number of damage right now. J-Sync and Chubba trying to stay alive through all of this. Liberate has a really great angle, and you can see Lush way off in the distance taking pop shots, but now Chubba's gonna have to climb back down.
That's unfortunate.
J-Sync as well, if they want to save Maluk, but there's not really a lot of protection down here. Having Adit down might be a little bit of help here, but as we can see right now, J-Sync positioning, trying to find another angle so that Chubba's going to have that time that he needs to get that res onto Maluk.
Yeah, Maluk unfortunately slipped on a banana peel as he went down that hill. He did get knocked first, but they're actually going to be able to, I believe they got him up. Yeah, that's crazy.
And here we go now as Liberate continuing to try and hold this pressure, but as we see a little bit of hesitation now, I think Shoot to Kill is rotating onto this as well, looking for another angle, and now having that brief opportunity to get this res here onto Adit. But this is a very busy circle, and Maluk, Hardship, Chuba, that was a bit of a blunder, and now they're going to have to figure out how to get out of this bowl. As we see, the circle is not going to move too far from this corner. It's going to kind of stay in the same area where all of the teams are sitting right now. They've been anticipating these circle shifts.
Yeah, and I think at this point, Hardships may have a much more difficult time rotating out, specifically with... actually, never mind. Liberate is moving. Ooh. It seems like they're shifting a little bit. They're actually about to fight Zenith.
And Zenith has made a lot of noise. They rotated it on vehicles, and that gave Lush enough information to call out to his teammates, hey, we need to reposition. We've got people coming in from this area, but Lush still trying to keep a good, solid eye on to Zenith and call that information out to his teammates to see Roth start to take a peek now, but I'm not quite sure if Zenith realizes just exactly where Liberate is on this position. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, Lush kind of going a little loud there. He's going to back off, but that definitely gave them an indication that someone may be creeping just below as we see the Mountain Goats STK slowly descending down the cliff, and they're actually they're in the middle of the road.
And
they're going
really,
for, I like this play. I like this play a lot. They're going for a hard wrap on the east, and they're going
look
for...
At 303. 303 is walking right onto STK, who right now have all of their sights set on Hardships. Turning around, I think Alo might have seen it, but it's just too late. Honey Badger's going to get that opening knock onto Luke 12 as that barrel fire is returned. Landoon is actually going to be the one to fall. A trade of knocks here between STK and 303. Honey Badger falling down as well. Uncivil is going to pick that up, but Alo with the flush now, and that's 2 players down and or out there for a 303 as Voxic trying to find an angle onto this, but struggling to get up to the cliff. There we go. Should see it here, but hitting the rocks, that's going to cost him there. And Purdy and Sybil know exactly where he is. D-Rich, meanwhile, it just doesn't have the angle to help here.
It's actually a nice nade, though. Civ moved just out of the way, but yeah. Voxic shooting early basically got him killed, and on top of that, he didn't even land a shot. That's unfortunate for him.
D-Rich is just going to run away and look for new positioning into the zone. That's going to take him, though, right onto the backside of Zenith. So out of the fire, into the frying pan. He leaves one difficult situation with one squad, only to take him into the next. And SDK's picking up some much-needed points. They must have heard us talking about him. They're going to get 3 kills out of that. And, I want to give a shout-out as well to Uncivil, because oftentimes when we talk about SDK, and as we've talked about them through the series, the 3 names that continue to come up have been Alo, have been Luke, and have been Kurt when we talk about kills and damage. And in the group stages, Uncivil was actually, I think, down in 23rd place in kills. And so to see him step up now and to consistently be in the top 5 in damage and kills for these matches is showing just how beneficial that is to Shoot to Kill. That not only are they playing well, but I think as well playing more as a cohesive unit. There's really not a lot of weakness right now.
You're basically saying Civil finally stepped up. That's what it sounds like.
In a
very nice way.
I think it's hard to say, but it is unfortunate when you do have one team member that stands out from the rest. But right now it's actually Sonics. They're taking a hard push here onto Elusive, but Sock's actually going to flush out Shrimzy. H-Win getting that knock onto Innate, picking up that flush now as well. And so that is a trade going on here between Elusive and Sonics. H-Win unfortunately getting found up there by Sock. Now it's only up to Mine there, as J All Day is actually in another compound and wasn't able to lend a hand, but it didn't matter here. Elusive was able to get a couple of kills out of this, and unfortunately for Sonics, down to just 1 player.
Yeah, it's not been Sonic's day so far. I can tell you that right now. They have not been getting anywhere near the amount of points that we kind of expected them to on Miramar. That being said, I don't think it's been a travesty of a day for them so far, but it's not been great. Moving forward, I mean, we'll see what Mime can do in this instance as a solo, but they at least have 2 more maps for the day.
Yeah, I mean, we're through the end of this series. 5 Miramar games versus 3 Erangel games, and then we'll go into 2 more Erangels today, and that kind of breaks even. But being so Miramar heavy, you're right, the teams that we expect to do well in Miramar, we think are going to kind of come out on top by this point already. That said, Hardshifts are actually going to get a knock and flush there onto Luke 12 from the kill feed, as we see TAC 8 rotating for their next position. Got a couple of teams off in the distance at different angles. We see Liberate and Comets as well. And they're going to take a couple of shots here, trying to secure this position as the circle is kind of started to, again, go back to these little open hill mountainous regions with fewer and fewer compounds left into play.
Yeah, and this is probably, I don't know, this is a kind of an awkward area to fight in Miramar, this southeastern little edge, because there is a lot of terrain to somewhat be used as cover or to play with, specifically trees, but it's not great fighting here because there's so many different elevations and angles you can be shot from.
I know, and we did see that was left of 303 got cleaned up by Zenith as well as Wildcard, but it's down here to the south. SDK and Hardshifts that have been going back and forth. Chuba still knocked, but Purdy Curdy, really it's kind of been lighting up into this, and now Maluk, who was the first one to get knocked, is the last one to go out. Unfortunately, Hardship's going out in 13th place. They made it to the top 2 for the first 2 matches for Miramar, but unfortunately aren't going to find the chicken this round, as SDK stays alive, though, at the cost of one of their own. They did lose Luke 12 in this fight, and back up to the north now, it's actually Oath that's kind of been mowing through a couple people, picking up 2 fights, and you've got Radiance now off to their southwest.
Yeah, this is a fight for the western edge, basically. Whichever one of these teams is going to destroy the others. That's the stupidest statement I think I can make, is going to come out on top. But yeah, these 2 teams right now are fighting for the west. And right now, technically Oath with the vehicles, I mean, they can probably just peace out and even go maybe a little bit to their north if they want to, or they can choose to try to hold out Radiance. I mean, the option is up to them. Radiance more so kind of stuck in a building, not exactly sure what they want to do. And if Oath sticks around, it's going to be a problem for them.
And Radiance now looking to send it, as McCoy is actually going to get into the bus and scout ahead, trying to find that next position for the rest of the team push in, as it looks like Oath is also doing the same. And it might be a race to that next position. Exodus with a couple of shots in this direction, but Radiance knows exactly where TAC 8 is. They've gotten a couple of knocks, taken out Liam in this area. And again, now back out to the east, we've got Zenith once again, hard push now onto STK, as Roth is going to get that knock onto Uncivil.
Nice
trying to pick up the flush, can't find it just yet. Smokes are out, and Flash is going to hit Roth as we see that animation strike through. And unfortunately, STK gets eliminated. It's actually going to be Drassel that gets that final kill, onto McCoy, is Roth, that clears house there for Zenith. But, they're not in the zone. And you can see on the minimap, you've got
Roth.
Liberate waiting for them.
Yeah, it's just Roth running in. I mean, 5 kills is great, sure. 10th place, a few more, and they'll get some placement points, but that's not the position they want to be in. Meanwhile, it looks like Oath is kind of ran amok all over Radiance, as they're kind of stuck between the shack and just on the edge, and this isn't necessarily the greatest position for Oath either. They're sandwiched. Both these teams on the edge are really going to have to fight to get off of, this top of the hill and down into the ravine where there's some sort of semblance of safety.
You've got Exodus down to the south. It's taken a couple shots. Drassel is venturing closer and closer. And meanwhile, you've also got Grizzly for TAC 8 that could have sight onto this. And that could spell this trouble as we start to see Grizzly take shots towards Radiance. But it doesn't matter. Badly will actually win that fight out, taking out TAC 8. And that's going to be a little bit of relief here to both Oath and Radiance, who no longer have to worry about TAC 8 on their backside, as Waldo struggling to make this harder push onto them. Wolf continuing to lay in a lot with Relo. Relo's actually be the one to find the knock there onto Waldo, and now Radiance down to just 2 players. It is Los and Badilo. We're holding a bit of the high ground, but they are trapped up here until they can get rid of Oath.
Yeah, and Oath is a pretty big thorn to have in your side right now. As I say that, Wolf is taking damage, fully boosted though. He's going to be just fine. Exodus finally in a good position towards the end game. Something that we've really needed to see from them. We'll see if they can capitalize as Pat Caps potentially starts to... Nope, he's going to back off that new circle shift.
Comets are actually eliminated. Roth is lighting up the kill feed, got the last player of the Comets out, and I think, has also found out Liberate. So while this fight is going on to the west, we've got more fights going on to the east, as well as Oath is going to unfortunately lose their Snakers. He's been knocked by Batty Low, but he's just a bit separated from the rest of the squad. So Oath, again, needs to take care of Radiance here, but now you've got Drassel, who still is kind of pushed up with Pat Caps and Microfry joining, so Oath finding themselves pinched between two squads.
Yeah, this is, like I said, this is a really tough position for them to play for. They're doing their best using utility, saving it. They're not throwing all of their smokes at the same time. You know, they're saving as much as they can for when a player potentially gets knocked. But, I mean, it's hard to fight out of that ravine, especially when there's a team like Radiance with somewhat of high ground above you. The problem for Radiance, though, is they need to start getting in, and they've realized that, which is why Battlelol has shifted off that position he was harassing Oath from. And they're really going to have to wrap either all the way east now, or they're going to have to try to fight through Oath, which is probably not going to end well.
Oh, and Roth really made a good run for this. He did so much damage in this corner, knocking a couple players from Liberate, but in the end, taken out himself, and Liberate should have a chance for those knocks. But again, as you said, we saw this really nice rotation coming in from Radiance. Los is actually going to get a knock and flush there onto Balefrost, as Oath now down to 3 players and taking a lot of damage. There, see Microfry get a couple shots there onto Relo, who hasn't been knocked just yet, but he's very low on health. Pat Caps trying as well, but we can see a damaged helmet. So all of these players are really losing a lot of armor and utility in this fight, and we're going into phase 6. The opportunity for looting is going to be fewer and fewer, and that could hurt some of these teams later on, as there you go, Relo has been knocked down as well, and it is just Wolfen, I think, trying to maybe get Snaker's knocked, as well. This is not a great position for Oath.
Oath is just getting harassed so hard by these teams. I mean, they really have nowhere to go.
Oh, that might bring a little bit of relief. Radiance is actually taken out by Liberate, so now all they have to do is worry about Exodus, but Exodus reading that situation and immediately coming for the push.
Bad.
They know that Radiance is no longer a threat, but Wolf finds one knock, but it doesn't matter. Pat Caps cleans it up, Microfry as well, and Oath goes out in 6th place. 6 kills for Exodus. I mean, you and I kind of talked about the fact that they've been struggling with the lack of leadership. I think it's safe to say that they might be finally shaking off that rust here, but it's time to put it to the test yet again. Here comes Liberate.
I don't know if it's rust or if they just got favorable position here. I'm not going to quite board that train yet. We'll see. But yeah, that was just wild for Oath. They were just getting smothered from so many different angles. I mean, I'm surprised they survived as long as they did.
That circle taking a shift once again, and this time everybody up to the north will have to cross the road. Taylor J in good position there for Exodus, as Fabled still has players alive, but it looks like just Greg shot. He's going to have to leave Tanaka behind. As we kind of take another overhead view, Mime is also still alive, playing the Snake game, trying to be a bit quiet and climb Sonics in for placement points, as we can see who is still up and alive. At it, getting some nice hits there onto Taylor J. And Liberate with 4 kills so far, but again, they need to kind of push themselves into a better position for this zone.
This is, I will say though, this is one of the first times I think we've seen Exodus in an endgame situation, especially with 4 up in a long, long time. And doing it with 6 kills is very healthy for them. It's a nice start, potentially a confidence booster at least, that they can close this out. With multiple members of Liberate knocked, they could potentially have a good push on this. A little hesitation coming out, but overall, this is what we need to see from Exodus.
And Exodus right now at 29 points to Liberate's 26, so whoever comes out of this fight could also jump the other here on the leaderboard, as Adit taking a couple more shots at Microfry, but the utility, the smoke wall right now is lending him a hand, but we see this big rotation coming in from Pat Caps as he finds the angle, and Adit takes out Guab, looking to clean up those kills and secure those points, and Exodus now at 30, so they are climbing, and here we go. Lush, meanwhile, is just going to try his best to send it. Can he find safety now, as we've seen more and more shots coming out from Exodus? Mime, though, also on the move. He's still not in the zone yet, and Mime is actually going to be the one to find Lush, picking up a point for Sonics, and Liberate going out in 5th place.
Yeah, Mime, for being a solo for as long as he's been, not only has he made it into the top 4, he also got himself at least a kill there in that situation. So Sonic's surviving off the back of Mime. We've seen it before, and we're seeing it now again. He's probably going to go down here not long for this world, but can he do any damage? Can he actually make it here? Running towards Exo is actually the correct play. He's denying LOS. Pat's going to find it. He throws to the middle of the road. And Pat with a Mark 14 is definitely not what you want to see on the other side.
I mean, Exodus right now, 10 kills. We've got 3 teams alive, 7 players alive. All 4 still up for Exodus, 2 for Elusive, JLD, and Seesock, but it is Fabled, Greg Shot, Fabled has had 0 kills so far this match. They've really found themselves and the bad kind of rotations and positions to the south, taken out player by player, and that's really what you don't want to see from them right now. Is you've got so much to go up against, especially with Exodus looking so strong and having a good spot in the zone.
Yeah, I mean, Exodus really has the stranglehold on this. They should be able to close this out relatively easily, but I mean, you know, we've seen throws in the past. I don't expect that they're going to throw this here. I think they're fairly comfortable with the circle, and especially with the number advantage they have. But I mean, we'll see. I mean, anything can happen, but I just don't see it happening here for Elusive or Greg Shot.
I mean, especially you just kind of look at the positioning. Greg Shot's very out in the open, and you've got Exodus now starting to spread their wings and look for every angle they can on the circle. Drassel has located both members of Elusive, and, you know, it's the numbers. At this point, Exodus knows there's only 3 people that they need to identify and locate. If they've been watching the kill feed, they should have an idea of who it is. Sock's going to go down and immediately pick back up. Pat Caps is going to actually get both of that as Drassel puts a little bit of damage into this, and now you've just got 2 solos still standing. Jay All Day really has all of Exodus coming down onto this. Microfry just running for it, trying to take that out. Greg Shot, meanwhile, I think might have just been spotted out by Taylor J, but we're down to just 2 teams, so Fabled at the very least will get placement points for this, and there you go. Microfry finishing it out. 13 kills for Exodus. I mean, just absolutely insane. Pat Caps is picking up 7 of that. Microfry with 3. Drassel 2. Taylor J 1. I mean, that was fantastic. That was what we've kind of been expecting from them and why we've been giving them such a hard time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily convinced that this is the turnaround point. I think they just had a really, really solid game and made some really smart decisions and good plays. But again, on the macro level, it seems like they have a lot of issues, and I'm just not convinced that those are fixed yet. But yeah, when that team is in a position to frag, they will absolutely frag. Again, between the players on that team, they have some of the best mechanical talent on the field. So not surprising there. Shout out to Bime for surviving as long as he did, getting some much needed points for Sonics for the day. They've had a little bit of a lackluster day. Greg Shot surviving, finding himself in the top 3 for Fable again.